Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm the founder of The Video Attic, and I'm the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dillon Gonzalez. I am a senior critic for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new The Video Attic new release roundup. Before we get started, I have an awesome giveaway, the Batman on Blu-ray and DVD. So first of all, awesome movie. I'm going to be reviewing it formally next week, but you can win a copy of your very own, and it's brand spanking new. Look at that, lovely.
Not even opened. Not even opened.
So to enter, it's really easy. Just leave a comment saying what title we cover that you are most excited for. Like, what are you gonna run out and buy? And that's all you need to do, and you will be entered to win the Batman. And I don't know if y'all have seen this movie, but I really liked it. So now you don't have to buy a copy, you can win one.
That's great.
And with that, over to you.
Yes, and I do want to point out that the giveaway is restricted to only those in the United States. I'm sorry to our non-US viewers. We will try to set up something for you another time.
Yeah, exactly. Deadline for that is June 20th. So you have some time, and you know.
Yeah. It's a good giveaway. But while we need to give these people releases to consider, and I'm going to start us off here. I have a new release from Shout Factory and G Kids, and it's actually one of my favorite animated films of last year, even though it's just released this year. And that is Belle, from the director Mamu Hosoda, who directed like Wolf Children and Mirai. He's a great director of anime, and I love all of his films pretty much. I'm a big fan of Summer Wars. This is a Blu-ray and DVD combo pack, and there's not reversible cover art, but it has some nice inner art that just makes the case look a little nicer. Have you seen this film yet?
I haven't.
Okay, it's really great. It is called Belle because it's kind of it takes on the Beauty and the Beast like mythos and kind of applies it in a new and exciting way. It's about a girl, Hosoda really likes to, especially if you're a fan of like Summer Wars, like I mentioned, he likes to kind of engage with the digital world and how people interact with technology. And this story involves like a schoolgirl who's just kind of like a normal kind of meek girl in real life, but then whenever she there's like a digital universe called just the letter U, and she ends up gaining like an online persona that is like a basically internationally renowned singer. Like, she's a really great singer in real life and becomes kind of like almost like a pop star in the digital world, while no one knows who she is in like the real world. But while she's in this world, there's also this character. It's not called the Beast. I can't remember what exactly it's called, but it's like a beast type character who's like kind of terrorizing things. And through this process, she ends up like kind of interacting with the Beast, and there's like no one knows who the Beast is like in the outside world either, and there's kind of like some tragic elements that are usually associated with the story within that. So it's subverting the old Beauty and the Beast story, but it's doing it in fun ways, and there's some great songs in this, some really nice dramatic turns, just gorgeous animation, like just absolutely stunning. It's just so sleek, and it's a really nice balance of like the traditional 2D animation, and then there's some like 3D animation once like you're in the digital world. That's really nicely implemented. So like I said, this is one of my favorite animated films in the past like year or so. And it is one that I believe should have been like easily nominated for Best Animated Feature, and I kind of found it a travesty when it wasn't. But that's just me. This new release from Shout Factory, it's really great. It looks and sounds amazing. It has both the original Japanese track and an English dub with some like notable American actors. It has an assortment of special features. I don't want to shortchange any of them, so I'm just going to like read off some that I wrote about. There's a 44-minute making of the movie. There's a 29-minute conversation with Hosoda. There's a 16-minute interview with like the three of the musical supervisors. There's a couple of pieces where Hosoda breaks down like individual scenes and like talks about what went into like, it's like a minute long or 30-second scene, and he like breaks it down like for like 12 minutes of like piece by piece things that went into it. And there's also like a festival Q&A in there. It's like really stacked with special features. So any fans of the movie will be really glad that they put a lot of care into this release, a lot of great special features. So yes, Belle, it's a really fun movie, and I highly recommend it for anime fans or just those who are looking for like a really interesting like balance of like drama and heart, like a really heartfelt drama. So really good.
Yeah, it sounds really interesting. I haven't really like tackled a lot of anime, so I think you would say that's a pretty good like, you know, entry point into that.
Yeah, just for people who are like just mainly familiar with like Studio Ghibli, this is kind of like a good branching off point, like the films of like Hosoda. He has a lot of really great stuff.
Nice. So my first title is one that I've never heard of from Paramount, and that is Infinite.
Mm-hmm. I have not been able to see this one yet, but I'm intrigued because I do not have Paramount Plus.
Yeah, it's a lot, so I'll get into it. But first of all, really nice packaging. So that is just the 4K, no Blu-ray, and there are some features. So for the movie itself, it's kind of a high concept sci-fi mishmash of other movies, probably most notably like The Matrix, a little bit of Star Wars in there, a little bit of like Kill Bill. They even kind of make a Kill Bill reference with the samurai sword. It is not good, but I will say it is fun. And I think what helps this movie a lot is it's overtly cheesy, and it kind of is in on its own joke. There's a lot of like humor, and it definitely kind of knows its place a little bit. I really enjoyed it. It's maybe a little bit too long. I thought it was a kind of a great like mindless sort of weekend movie that you put on with your friends. You know, that is certainly this movie. It is not high art, but dang it, it's fun.
Nice.
Where's that quote, right?
Yeah, it's not high art,
but it's fun, you know. Like, look at that. How would you not want to watch it from that?
Yes.
From just that. And I will say, like, some of the concepts are actually really interesting. Again, they're not anything new. I will say that there is a big sort of through line with like mental health, which I kind of think isn't super offensive, but maybe is a little cringy. And I just want to like throw that out there because I've seen a lot worse portrayal of like people suffering with like different mental illnesses. Like, for example, Mark Wahlberg's character has or is diagnosed as schizophrenic, which is kind of threaded, I think, nicely throughout the plot. It's not like some like throwaway thing or like a joke or anything. They don't like treat it as a joke, but you know, your taste might vary as far as how they use it as like a plot device. So throwing that out there, but I did overall really enjoy it.
Probably going to try to watch that soon because I have to review it for the site. And like I'm a Mark Wahlberg fan, and I'm especially interested to see like Chiwetel Ejiofor getting more like bigger roles. I think he deserves it. And if I recall correctly, I think it's directed by Antoine Fuqua, who is always a really solid director. Even if his movies aren't always the best, he's always well directed. So I'm intrigued. I'm not expecting greatness, especially now, but I will definitely check it out soon.
It's definitely one of those like party movies that if you can see it with a group of people, like-minded people, that's kind of like the best, situation.
Absolutely. I have another new film coming up for my second film. This is from Sony, and it is the new Sandra Oh horror film, Umma. I want to say Umma because that's not how they say it. It's Korean for mother. And it is directed by Iris K. Shim, and it is produced by Sam Raimi, which this looked intriguing whenever it first came out a couple months ago, but I heard not so great things. And I can understand why I heard so many not so great things. It's not the best movie. It's kind of light, honestly. Like not light in tone, but there's just not a lot there. The basic plot is Sandra Oh is kind of suffering. She's kind of isolated herself from the world after having kind of like a rough experience with her mother when she was younger, and she has her own daughter, and it's just kind of kept herself like away from everyone. She claims she cannot be around electricity, so they're kind of like living off the grid and like raising bees and stuff until one day her like estranged uncle shows up with her mother's remains, tells her mother has like died, and here she is in an urn, and kind of ignites kind of old wounds. And of course it kind of goes into like a ghostly spiritual haunting kind of presences there, but it's not as straightforward as like a normal like haunting movie. It's more like internal reckoning with the past type of situation. So the spirit is not outwardly like malevolent, but she is like the mother spirit thinks that she knows best, and her way of like raising her daughter was very abusive. So it just kind of like weaves in and out of like kind of like a little bit of possession and haunting, and the scares are not like super intense. There are like some decent kind of like chilling moments, but it just never really goes for it. There's some nice like emotional catharsis, but it just, as an entire movie, I didn't find it extremely effective. I just thought it was like okay, and I'm not sure if I'll revisit it again, but it was like decent. It's not like up to what you would expect from like a Sam Raimi movie, but I know he's just producing this, but it's fine. It's fine.
It's not like on a scale from like great to Candyman 3, where would you?
Oh, it is nowhere near Candyman 3. This is definitely like, you can watch this and be like, I didn't waste my time, but you won't be like, ooh, this is going with like the horror like pantheon. This isn't like great. So it's but the presentation itself, it looks good. Like it's a lot of it takes place at night or like in shadows, and there's like has deep dark blacks and like not a lot of compression artifacts or anything. The surround sound presentation, the 5.1 presentation sounds good. There not really any special features. There's like previews, which I don't really count as a special feature. But if you're interested in like Sandra Oh or horror movies, at least give it like a rental, but I wouldn't maybe rush out to buy it day one.
Okay.
That's the best I can do.
Yeah, I am curious. I might rent it or see if it's streaming first. I definitely am curious enough to maybe check it out. I have something very opposite, and that is Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Nice.
There's slipcover.
I'm so glad they're considering or continuing this series on 4K. I was worried they wouldn't.
Yeah, so this sequel, like people either really like it or they don't. I think it's not as good as the original, but I still think it's pretty fun. I think Murphy is top tier. Again, it doesn't really recapture that magic of the first film, but it's great. It has I completely forgot that like Gilbert Gottfried is in this. Like a very young Chris Rock is in this for like a second.
Nice.
He did not get slapped, so that's good.
Topical.
Yeah. And I will say that I feel like we do not talk enough about how amazing Brigitte Nielsen is in this, and as like an over-the-top 80s villain. Like she is just so good in this. And as far as how it looks, so I've owned this on Blu-ray, so I did take some time to kind of like look to see what the difference is, and I will say that the contrast and the colors are a little bit nicer. There are definitely like outdoor scenes that really like pop, that are just incredibly crisp and nice looking. I think it's certainly, if you are a fan of these films, I think it's worth an upgrade. I thought that the first film looked great on 4K, and I think that the second one looks just as good, really. Clearly they're using some really good like original material, and since the movies aren't really that old, this was like 87, so they have a lot of really probably relatively fresh material to kind of work with. Yeah, it's overall really great. It's a fun movie. Of course, that main theme like slaps. It was stuck in my head the other day all day, and that's fine. Actually, the Family Guy version of that was stuck in my head. Where like Peter does like the like sings it in a club or something. So yeah, that was fun to have in my head all day. But well worth checking out if you're kind of new to the Beverly Hills Cop movies. As you mentioned and I mentioned, that part one is on 4K as well. I can link both of these in the description. Well worth checking out. Really fun comedies.
Yeah, while you were talking a little bit, I was eyeing my original DVD trilogy over here on the shelf, and I was like, can I reach it? I'm like, nope, not quite. But I need them to release the third movie so I can retire it completely, because it's taking up too much space, and I need this in 4K, not old DVD.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, I have to say, all of the big studios have been really crushing it with their like vaulted 4K stuff. Paramount, Warner Brothers, Sony, like good stuff.
Yeah, and I like that this second outing, I'm excited just to have another Tony Scott movie like on 4K, because I love him as a director and I miss him, and I'm just glad that his work is like still getting like reevaluated and re-released. So that's exciting. And I'm gonna continue the Paramount theme. This is one that I had to pre-order because I really wanted to see this, because it's been on my list forever. And that is the new Paramount Blu-ray of Top Secret, starring Val Kilmer. And yeah, so this has been on my list for like to watch. I've never seen this movie before, but I've been wanting to watch this for probably damn near 15 years. I saw it on like one of those like We Love the 80s shows, and someone was like, this is the funniest movie I've ever seen. And like the few clips I remembered, I was like, I need to see this, and then it just like never happened. And I love Val Kilmer, so I saw they were finally releasing it on Blu-ray. I was like, I'm going to see this movie finally. For those who don't know, this is from the same creative team as Airplane. So it's the Zucker brothers, and I think it's Jim Abrams. Yeah. And so it's their follow-up to Airplane. It's Val Kilmer in his debut film performance. And basically the conceit is all pretty much same exact type sense of humor as Airplane, like kind of like the absurdist, silly, like visual gags and like play on words and everything. It stars Val Kilmer as a American musician who like just he starts off it's like with like a kind of a Beach Boy sound with and like gets popular with songs about like involving guns. Like one's called just like Skeet Shootin', but like in the style of the Beach Boys. But he gets like tasked with going to Germany for like some kind of like peacekeeping kind of talks. It's during World War II, and he gets swept up in this like spy scheme and like gets mixed up with Nazis and falls in love with a girl, and it's just all that. The plot's not important. It's like the gags that are important, and there's like so many really good gags. A lot of them do not age well. Obviously, a comedy from the 80s, it's like a roll of the dice if it's gonna be problematic or not. But there's a lot that's not problematic, and especially I got way more amusement out of this probably than I should have. But just near the end of the movie, two people go undercover as a cow and they wear boots, and just seeing a cow walking around with boots made me lose my mind. I loved it. But yeah, there's a lot of really funny gags in this. And while it's not the funniest movie ever, like the person in that video that I had seen, is a very funny movie, and I laughed out loud on several occasions. This Blu-ray, it looks good. It's not. I can tell it's not been like newly like 2K or 4K remastered, but I think this comes from like a solid older master. There are some shots that look kind of rougher, but most of all, it looks pretty like organic and nice with just like some flaws here and there. It doesn't come with a ton of like special features, but it does have a commentary with all like 3 directors and some of the producers. It has some alternate scenes and like just various little featurettes. But if you're a fan of this movie, you finally have it in high definition, so that is exciting. And yeah, it's a really fun time. If you like Airplane, you should probably own this. If you have watched Airplane recently and it didn't hold up, you probably don't need to, like, if you're evolved from that type of humor, this is pretty much the same. So yeah, top secret, newly from Paramount.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is one I also haven't seen yet, so I will try to track that down. My next one is another one I've never heard of, called The Carey Treatment, and this is based on a Michael Crichton novel, who's probably best remembered for Jurassic Park, writing Jurassic Park. And this was directed by Blake Edwards, who is a comedy legend and, you know, was responsible for like the Pink Panther movies. So this is a very like unconventional murder mystery, with the titular Dr. Carey, played by James Coburn, and it's a not overly complicated murder mystery. The lead actor's charm really goes a long way, I think, into kind of making this enjoyable. It's definitely rough around the edges, but Blake Edwards does a really great job of keeping everything together, keeping everything like flowing really nicely. It's definitely not like, if you would think like Pink Panther, this is not like that kind of comedy. Like, it is funny, but it's not like slapsticky. It's definitely not like what I would say is like Top Secret. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that kind of comedy, but I would say maybe like some of the humor is like dark humor, but it has a lot of heavy subject matter. Actually, you know, the right to like a woman's right to choice is actually prominently front and center in this film. So speaking of like very topical things, it was kind of eerie how much this movie kind of resonated with me, like as far as just like with current events. You know, Warner Archive always does a really fantastic job. This movie looks great. It's maybe a little bit soft or blurry at times, but I think overall it's a really crisp, clean looking film. This is from the 70s, from 72. So, you know, I could tell that they were working with some really nice elements because the colors really were nice. The contrast was well done. You know, I didn't really notice any like scratches or any like rough sort of film elements. Yeah, so it just has a trailer. Unfortunately, it would have been kind of cool to have like an interview or something, but you know, it's a really nice release, and I think it was like a fun discovery for me. It was something I would probably definitely like check out again. It's so strange how like timely it is still.
Yeah, I watched this movie the night after the like Supreme Court leak first happened, and I was like, "Whoa, this is wild!" That it's like the next night, like it's like a movie dealing with a doctor getting locked up for performing an abortion. I was just like, "Okay, all right, that's like like right, it's still relevant." And like you said, James Coburn's really great. I like the movie's not perfect, and I know that Edwards had a lot of issues during the production of this movie because they took the film away from him and edited it like without his permission, which was like a lot of the inspiration for one of his follow-up movies, SOB, which is also available through the Warner Archive. But even in its kind of like compromised form, in his opinion, I still think it's a pretty solidly entertaining movie. I just find it amusing that Coburn plays a doctor, but he mostly acts like a detective.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really interesting because I guess that's kind of like the unconventional sort of approach to the murder mystery is this like very charismatic doctor who is like sleuthing because he doesn't have enough to do being a doctor. But you know, hey, it's a movie. You gotta suspend some disbelief, but you know, it's all good.
Yeah, I recommend it. I second your recommendation. All right, so I'm about to dig into a box set, and I'm excited. This is another Arrow Video box set, and it is the second Claude Chabrol box set called Twisting the Knife. Both of us have like shown off Lies and Deceit in the past, and this is their follow-up to that. So this includes 4 films as opposed to 5 that were in Lies and Deceit. It includes The Swindle, The Color of Lies, Nightcap. What a boring process. Thanks everyone for sticking with me. And The Flower of Evil. Yes. And I'll just finish off showing. As usual, I took off the removable J card, but you can see that here. This is what you can remove, and then it has a nice solid booklet, which I always appreciate with an Arrow release. And each film gets its own lengthy essay. So yeah, there's like over like 80 pages in this. But yeah, I once again had a good time discovering these films, and getting to learn a little bit more about Chabrol. I am not rich with knowledge, but I feel like after these overall 9 films, I'm getting there. So yeah, I'll go quickly through these movies. The first one is kind of like the lightest one, I would argue, and it's The Swindle. It has Isabelle Huppert plays like one part of a pair of con artists who are like taking advantage of like certain marks, like going from city to city, taking advantage of these men in kind of really low stakes, like safe ways. But then in one of their next like kind of events that we're following or heists that they're going to perform, things kind of get turned on their head whenever they try to escalate and get mixed up with like some like international crime people. It's really kind of like more about the relationship between the characters and the actual like any kind of heist, which I like, kind of like that character focused type atmosphere. The second film, The Color of Lies, it's kind of like a precursor to the current like true crime boom. This isn't like a real crime, but it involves like a little girl who is found murdered in the woods, and suspicion is cast on this like kind of failed artist who was giving her like painting lessons, and how that impacts him and his family, like that suspicion, like the small town pot boiler, like everyone looks at him differently, and trying to figure out who actually committed this murder and what exactly went down. And I think it's handled really well how kind of these kind of ideas and suspicions can like tear down a person's like sense of self and standing in the community. The Nightcap is like a really nice kind of Hitchcockian thriller. It involves a kind of like a famous pianist, and who has his wife was killed many years ago, and he has just gotten remarried. And there's also this girl who she finds out on the day of her birth, she almost got switched at birth with the dude's son, but they kind of caught it beforehand. But she learns about this, and she is like an aspiring pianist, and she comes into this family to kind of be like, hey, I was the baby you almost got stuck with. And there's kind of like that kind of psychological aspect of like what could have been. But then while in the course of this, she kind of finds out some family secrets within this family that kind of unravels them. And it's very like meticulous and well put together. Like I said, it's the most like Hitchcock that I've seen from Chabrol, at least in this set. And then finally, The Flower of Evil is just a really wild movie about lies and how that impacts, like, all these deal with lies basically. But this one specifically is just all within like family secrets. There's like some incest going on, history with Nazis, just like different weird like lies that are like bubbling with under the surface of this family. And it all comes to the surface when one of the like the mom of the family decides she wants to run for office, and that kind of stirs the pot. So yeah, these are all 4 really well done. They're very entertaining, and Arrow has put together like a really nice set. These all come newly remastered from MK Entertainment or MK2. And all of them look great. They sound great. All have audio commentaries. They all from like film historians, and select scene commentaries, which run from about 30 to 50 minutes by Chabrol. There's a video essay on each movie. There's like little featurettes with some of the actors and like behind the scenes people. It's a really stacked set. So if you are a fan of French cinema or Chabrol in particular, I would recommend this. It's just very layered and tense a lot of times, but also like darkly funny. So yes, Twisting the Knife from Arrow Video. It's a fun set, and I know you are going to do possibly an unboxing video sometime, so can look forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my next one is Two Men in Town, and that is a Kino and Cohen film. and has some features there. So yeah, this is one I didn't really care for. I always have that one, right? So the plot is basically like Forrest Whitaker's character like gets out of prison for having like killed a deputy, like I think it was maybe 18 years earlier, and he's like trying to get a fresh start in the same town. And Harvey Keitel plays the I think he's like the sheriff of the town, and he's basically kind of making Forrest Whitaker's life a living hell. And if that plot kind of sounds familiar, it's like every kind of movie like this you've ever seen. It almost feels like a sincere kind of parody. Like it just ticks all the boxes. And I don't necessarily think that that's right out of the gate something that is going to hinder the movie. I think that it doesn't have that element to sort of elevate that material beyond kind of being derivative. Performances are great. Both lead actors are amazing. I think it's well shot. It definitely like gives this like sort of barren wasteland of a town like a really good atmosphere. Just did not connect with me. And then I looked up the Rotten Tomato score and it's like 44%. So it wasn't like Dog, where I was like questioning like my like, you know, because that movie gets such a high score and I wasn't sure why. But it seemed like the consensus was kind of like, after I watched it, informed my opinion about the same, which was, you know, it has great acting, but the plot is a little bit just cliched and, you know, doesn't really have that kind of special ingredient to make it something a little bit more memorable or special. Like John Wick is basically a very by the numbers action movie, but it has a lot of world building that elevates it. And this movie didn't really have that certain thing to, you know, kind of hoist it to something a little bit more interesting. Like it almost gets there, but it never really fully commits to like its characters. Weirdly, like there's a really great character of like this parole officer that Whitaker has, and like she's a really interesting character, but then they kind of just drop her and there's no really like satisfying arc or anything. It's kind of the same for like all of the characters. Like they just seem like throwaway, pretty disposable. Like the female characters in particular are like very disposable. So it was kind of disappointing. I would say if you like these actors, definitely check it out anyways. But yeah, it's not like anything you haven't seen before.
Yeah, I'm a little bit warmer on this movie than you are. It's not some great masterpiece, but I was more entertained than you were, apparently. I did really like Brenda Blethyn as the parole officer. I was glad to see her. I haven't seen her in that much, but I really liked her in Secrets and Lies back in the 90s. But yeah, it is very derivative. But I won't lie, I was very like, I was feeling what they wanted me to feel at points, like whenever Keitel would like harass Forrest Whitaker whenever he was trying to do good. Like I was like, stop harassing. Like, so like I was very like manipulated by this movie. Like, because I'm a simple man and that's what happened. But I can understand like it's not amazing and it is derivative, but I liked it a little bit more than you did.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the acting is great. Like Ellen Burstyn is in this for like a scene, and that's amazing, and I love her. Yeah. And yeah, it's just you know, it's It is what it is.
Yeah.
Put that on the cover. Why don't you?
I don't think they moved that many copies, man. I'm not gonna lie. My next film is Where Are You, Jay Bennett from MVD Entertainment. And this one is a music documentary about the late Jay Bennett. This has both the Blu-ray and DVD in here, who was a pivotal member of the band Wilco during some of their most like prominent albums, like from the early or like late 90s into the early 2000s. And he's kind of often like kind of like the unsung hero of Wilco, and there's like a lot of lore around him about how like the falling out with the band, and this kind of like it's probably biased in its own way, but it kind of like goes to like set the record straight of like what exactly happened with certain things. So it kind of traces his life from like his very early life, his bands before he joined Wilco, and then whenever he got together with Jeff Tweedy and Ken Coomer and the other members of Wilco, and really solidified their place like within that scene. And while I've never been like the biggest Wilco fan, I do have enough of a passing familiarity that I was like intrigued by this story. I think it's like a really good examination, especially whenever they delve into the making of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, which is like one of their big album before Jay Bennett departed from the group or was fired from the group. And kind of like digging into that process of, there was another documentary made around that time, like during the production, that kind of like painted him a certain way. And then you have other figures like the audio engineer and like the drummer, Ken Coomer, coming in and telling like, no, this is what actually happened. And like, if this other documentary had not come out, maybe the band wouldn't have had to break up, because it was kind of like their dynamic, like they would argue, but then they would like make up and come to a consensus. But like everyone was under so much pressure that it kind of exacerbated things. And this is just like one example of like along his story of like his ups and downs in music, and then like what happened post Wilco, and kind of how like what led to his like tragic death at like the age 45, which I didn't really know about, but just like they tell you right off the bat, so it's not like a spoiler to mention that. But it's a really good examination of an artist. Even if you're not a huge fan of Wilco, I think you can like appreciate this as just a portrait of an artist who was like had his ups and downs. But if you're not like, if you hate Wilco, you probably won't love this. But it's a solid movie, and the release is really good. It has like a commentary track. It has like a bunch of like extended interviews and like deleted scenes. So especially if you're a Wilco fan, you definitely need to watch this. But if you're just a fan of music documentaries, this one, I really enjoyed this one. So Where Are You, Jay Bennett from NBD.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. I am not familiar with that movie or the band, I don't think. What I've heard, like, what's one of their most famous songs?
I can't really point out like a famous song. They're kind of like alt folk type stuff. Like yeah. I can't point you in the right direction. They're a very big band within the alt folk stuff. Okay. Like they're like selling out like auditoriums and stuff. Nice. Within that scene.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out, because I do like some good indie like folk music. So so my next one couldn't be more different, and that is The Year of the Jellyfish.
Ooh, yeah.
Now, have you seen that? Yeah, so this is really something. Another one that I've never even heard of. This is the very definition of a sun-drenched French cult classic. Lots of French nude beaches featured. It is a very provocative film. I think that's kind of putting it mildly. Of this like younger girl and her kind of escapades, I guess. It's very stylish. It's very bonkers. Like the movie goes in some really weird, dark places. And certainly there's some like cringy implications. I know she's supposed to be maybe 16 or 17, but I think the actress was older than that. But it's a little dry in places, I found, but overall it's like a really engaging, almost kind of hypnotic watch. Again, I went in completely like blind. I had no idea of this movie. It kind of floored me. It was really something. I don't want to give a lot. I don't really want to give too much away. Just to say, if you're a prude about nudity and sexuality, you might not be into it.
Yeah, I was thinking after I watched this movie, I was like, I have never like seen so many like beautiful naked people consistently like within a movie that it wasn't like supposed to be like a porn. Basically, like it's like it's a movie. Like it's definitely not supposed to be like, I don't think it's like, despite the overwhelming amount of nudity throughout, it's not really salacious, really. It's just kind of like matter of fact. It's not like lingering on bodies. It's just like, here's a bunch of naked people, and there's so much nudity that you almost kind of like start to tune it out. It's just like, yeah, okay, like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you do.
like everyone's naked.
You do get a little bit desensitized pretty early. But yeah, it's like I said, it tends to drag a little in the middle, I thought, but again, it always is kind of going into these like places that you don't expect, and I thought that was really interesting. It's again a little uncomfortable because she's supposed to be like, I think she said 16, maybe 17.
That confused me because like early in the movie it says she was 16, but then like later it mentioned like she was 18, and then like the year before she had been 17. Like, so I got confused because at first I was like, oops, sleeping with a 16-year-old, but then I was like, she's 18, but still not good, but like better. I don't know.
Don't know if I would necessarily like watch it over and over again, but if you're kind of looking for some like fun Euro trash to watch, it's a really nice presentation. I'm not sure if this is a 2K, but it looks really good. I've never seen this on any other format, but I mean the outdoor scenes, particularly on the French Riviera, I mean, is a beautiful looking. Like I can definitely tell that they were working with, again, some really nice material. There's a little bit of artifacts and scratches, but like very, very faint. Like the colors and the image is really crisp. Like I think this was from like 84. So that's not old because I'm almost that old. So yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
looks good, and the movie is really something.
Yeah, like just to underline, like this isn't like a sexploitation movie. It's
No.
more of like a psychological character study of like a person, like a young girl trying to test the limits of her like power, like sexual power, and like how she can manipulate people. And I found it very intriguing, not just like on a pure prurient interest. Like I'm not just like leering at her. Like that's not the only reason I appreciate this movie.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I also
Psychological.
kind of wanted to mention that it's not like, it sounds like it's like very overtly like male gaze. And I don't think, as you say, it lingers a lot. It's just very matter of fact. I mean, again, the movie starts right off with like they're on the beach, and it's almost like a celebration of bodies and not like ooh, look at, this person or whatever. So that's why it kind of didn't, otherwise it would have kind of grossed me out a little bit, like with it being like very overtly male gazy. But I mean, again, it is about a woman's sexuality and her sexual autonomy, which I appreciate. So yeah, it's not as like gross as it maybe sounds. And again, like you said, it is not very explicit. Like I don't really remember there being like a lot of even real like sex. Like there's like they're about to do it and then they'll like cut to like, well, I guess they just did it, which is kind of surprising because you would think like a movie like this would have a lot of like sex and stuff in it, but it's just a lot of nudity, which
I mean they're on a mostly topless beach, so like it makes sense. Like you have like, it's not just like they're lingering on her, it's just like people in the background are naked, like everyone's naked if they want to be.
Yeah, and like I mean, I've often wanted to be topless during our videos, but you're like, no,
I gotta draw a line.
Shut it down. No.
I don't care if it'll boost our numbers. We gotta draw a line.
We would be getting negative numbers. So.
Oh, that's all right. Moving on. There's still a little bit of nudity in this, but not as much. It is the new release from Kino Classics and Scorpion releasing, and that is Jude, starring Kate Winslet and Christopher Eccleston, who people probably know best from Doctor Who, and everyone knows who Kate Winslet is, so I don't have to explain that. But this is based on the novel Jude the Obscure, and it kind of takes place in the like Victorian era England, and this actually has reversible cover art, which I'll show off. I was surprised, but that's cool. So I had kind of heard of this movie for years, and I saw it was finally coming to Blu-ray, and I wanted to check it out. And I have to admit, normally whenever I watch a period piece, like costume drama type thing, I find myself being like having moments of boredom. And I'm usually just like, even like as good as the movie is, a lot of times I'll just be like, I'm a little bit bored. I did not get that with this. I actually really like was entertained by it. And my wife, Jessica, who is often like me, who doesn't really care for costume dramas, like she was like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. I was like, I know, it's pretty entertaining. So yeah, the basic conceit of this is that it's about this young man, Jude, who is kind of like his journey. Like at the beginning of the movie, he gets married to this like farm girl, and like he's with her for a little bit, but then she just kind of runs off to Australia, and he goes about his life, and then he meets. Okay, this kind of goes back to like some of what I was talking about with Chabrol. He meets up with his cousin and falls in love with her, played by Kate Winslet. And it's like kind of their little love story with his cousin. And like all the problems or like how they're kind of like trying to like keep that distance for a while, but then they eventually get together. But then he's also technically still married under the eyes of God to his former wife, and all the problems that like arise from this. And this gets quite dark. Like this has one of the like most downer endings I've ever seen. It's wild. What really made this movie for me, like why I found this more entertaining than normal period pieces, is Kate Winslet. She did such a good job, and it's because her character is not the traditional like demure like shrinking violet in the face of the patriarchy. She is always calling Jude on his bullshit. If he like says something or like is like kind of like hinting around at something, she like calls him out on it immediately, and it's like, no, you want this, you mean this, like this is what you mean. And she's like doesn't back down to anyone, which I loved. And like just hearing her basically roast his ass the whole time and get him to be like a straightforward, like say what you mean type of person was so refreshing. It's a really like yeah, there are elements that are like like that's questionable, but it's a very entertaining movie, and like it's like I actually really enjoyed it. So yeah, if you're a fan of this movie, if you're a fan of Kate Winslet especially, Jude, I really enjoyed it. The transfer, it's not like a new like remaster, but it's a really solid older master. If you would have told me it was a new remaster, probably would have believed you. It has an audio commentary from some film historians and a trailer. That's all you get, but that's enough. You got a good audio commentary, you're good. So yeah, Jude, I enjoyed it.
Okay. Yeah, that's another one that I had never heard of, but sounds pretty interesting. So my final title is actually a pair of titles, and that is the two recent Sergio Leone releases, A Fistful of Dollars.
Dope. Yes.
And For a Few Dollars More, which is like one of my favorites. There's the back, and it has a lot of nice features. So we'll take a look at these. So of course, slipcover, as we both said before, if you want the slipcover, you want to order it quickly. I especially these, I feel like are probably going to sell out pretty quickly. So here's the inside. It does come with the 4K disc and the Blu-ray, and it looks fantastic. So this is one that I've owned actually on this set on DVD.
Nice.
And never actually owned this even on Blu-ray because I was kind of holding out hope for like a 4K. Looks fantastic. I will say there is a little bit of like weird like coloring at the like bottom of the frame sometimes, but I think that just might be like film elements and not necessarily like Kino or the restoration. Overall, I mean, this isn't like a very colorful film, but like the what color it does have really pops. Like the outdoor locations are incredible, really crisp, really nice looking. Has that nice grain texture, but like it's not like the grain level isn't like crazy high like with some older movies. You tend to get that, but not here, because this is like from '64. So and again, you have a slew of really cool features. It was a blast going through these. As for the movie itself, I mean, it's iconic. Like it's everybody kind of knows that score of Marconi. It has like the famous, like whenever they do like the close-up of the eyes and stuff, like that's all from like Sergio Leone. The same with For a Few Dollars More. So epic. It's like on a whole other like level, like scale wise. Lee Van Cleef in it, like kind of just is the perfect complement to Eastwood and his character. And again, also looks really fantastic. I mean, going from a DVD to a 4K, yeah, it looks incredible, but it's if you've been holding out, if you've only had even just the Blu-ray. I've had the Blu-ray of For a Few Dollars More, and I will say again, there is a nice kind of leap in the color and like the film texture. I mean, it really has that like really nice film grain, like film kind of looking quality to it. Yeah, and like the first film, it's not a particularly colorful movie. Like the color palette's rather muted, but when there is color in here, it like pops, and it's nice because it's not oversaturated either. It just has that nice balance.
That's great. Yeah, I've had the Blu-ray trilogy for a long time, and I'm eager to upgrade to 4K.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it in my opinion.
Yeah, so that's a pair of great releases, and I want to finish up one more Kino release in association with Code Red. I'm not gonna lie, I got this solely based on the cover art, and not sure if that was the best idea, but it's great cover art. That is Yeti, Giant of the 20th Century. Which, like, okay, let's see. Okay, giant, like, cool, like, artistic Yeti and ice, and then in the back here, you got this man dressed in a Yeti suit that looks pretty janky. But yeah, like I said, this comes from Code Red, and I had never seen this movie before. It's remastered from the original Italian 35mm camera negative, and whenever they're not showing the Yeti, it looks pretty good. With shots of the Yeti, like how it was shot, I think it's kind of like a composite-y. The transfer goes down a little bit, like a notch down in quality, just because of how it was filmed. But overall, the film, like, the elements look good. The film itself, it's just like pure, like, like Mystery Science Theater 3000 level cheese. It is basically King Kong with like a little Godzilla thrown in. It's all down to basically it's similar to the Mighty Peking Man that I talked about in the Shawscope set. Like, they find this Yeti, and he falls in love with this like human woman, and he gets brought back to civilization, and then he loses his shit on people and like starts killing people whenever camera flashes, and people, like, it's the King Kong story. It's nothing new. So if you like that, but you want to see a man with like in a wacko Yeti suit, like doing all this stuff and very like low budgety, then you'll probably have some fun with it. If you're not in the mood for like a huge cheese fest, you'll probably find this pretty tedious because it's just not a good movie at all. So yeah, it is what it is. It's not a great movie. There's no special features. It's just been remastered. So like, you have to be in this for the movie. You have to be in this for the trash. If you want the trash, it's a good release. If you don't want the trash, avoid it. That's basically all I can say about this movie. It's a Yeti movie. He messes people up, and yeah.
Yeah, now this is one I was actually familiar with. And I remember it just being so over the top ridiculous. And it's like almost so bad it's good though.
Yeah.
I didn't know like if you kind of got that vibe from it or not.
Yeah, I didn't hate it, but I was just like, this is definitely not good.
I think it's one of those movies. I agree with you. I think it's definitely one of those movies where if you're watching it in a crowd with a lot of like-minded people, I think it could be pretty fun.
Yeah.
Also,
get a group of friends. That's what you're saying. Just get a group of friends.
Just have some friends. Yeah.
I'll put that on the list to make some friends.
Oh, I got to get some friends first.
Show it to us.
So, and again, if you want the slipcover, get it soon.
I still see people whining about missing out on the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly slipcover. So get on it. Don't be one of those people.
I really want that one.
Yeah.
Also,
get a group of friends. That's what you're saying. Just get a group of friends.
Just have some friends. Yeah.
I'll put that on the list to make some friends.
Oh, I got to get some friends first. Also, I completely spazzed on showing off this more.
Show it to us.
So, and again, you know, if you want the slipcover, you know, get it soon. I still
see people whining about missing out on the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly slipcover. So get on it. Don't be one of those people.
I really want that one. But yeah, I'm so very excited for these amazing releases. So that I think kind of wraps up the Video Attic. So just saying once again, we have a giveaway, the Batman. Just to clarify once again, entries are only good if you are within the US, and all you need to do to enter is just leave a comment and say, hey, like what title we talked about that you are most excited about, and that's all you got to do. Easy, and you get a free movie. So why not? And if you like this content, definitely consider giving it a like and subscribing. We definitely have some more great videos coming up. We have a all horror movies edition of the Video Attic coming up very soon, so you don't want to miss that. And thanks for hanging out with us.